My name is Mackenzie. I'm a mind change practitioner. I live in New York City, but I'm visiting in Austin. I'd heard about the book club that you guys are a part of and wanted to hear more, get to meet you guys. If you could tell us your names, where you live, that'd be great.
My name is Marinelle Brewster, and I've lived here in Austin, Texas for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband is Chris, and I have got 3 kids.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And no relation, we just happen to have the same last name.
Yeah.
Lucky us. And?
Oh, my name is Uyen Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
I just moved out here from California about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
My husband and I been married for 14 years,
Mm-hmm.
and he had Lyme disease, and we moved out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been here less than 2 years.
Okay, wow. And how did you guys get to be a part of this book club? How did that start?
Okay, so actually my husband and I know Marinelle back even Bay Area 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. You've been friends for a long
Yes.
time. Okay.
So for me, I remember one time I shared with her about my relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away 3 years ago, and she's like, "You need my change." I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
You know. So then I came here in July,
Mm-hmm.
and then when the book club, when we start book club, I think the end of August,
Mm-hmm.
I jumped in right away.
Yeah.
So I joined the book club. We met like every Friday
Mm-hmm.
at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, nice and early.
Yeah. So that's how I know my change.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't start with book of my change.
Yeah.
I started with book with metanoia.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah. Metanoia and then mind change. What about you, Marinelle?
So I started this journey about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So it was right before COVID, and a friend of mine, Angela, she just kind of tapped me on the shoulder because she knew I was going through a lot of health stuff.
Yeah.
So she's like, "I think this would be really good for you to do," and I'm like, "Why?" You know. And
Yeah.
so I was curious.
Yeah.
So it started about 2.5 years ago. We just decided to meet. We were meeting in person, and then COVID came, so then we just started doing it in Zoom, and we'd meet once a week. But it was amazing because we'd read a chapter or two, and then we had a set of questions we'd go through. So
Yeah.
the day that we'd meet, we'd discuss and do that work together. So this has been, again, 2.5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I've been part of 5 book clubs later.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes.
You've been through a number of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In that first one that you had, when you guys were you in the first one
No,
together?
I was,
You in
yes,
one?
I
and
was in
then-
the first one. She was probably on the
Fifth one.
fifth
Oh,
one.
okay.
So I've been doing
She
this
my
for.
mentor.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've been doing this for. Yeah, I was the first book club here
Okay.
with Angela.
Do you remember when reading the book, and I know you said you were going through a bunch of health challenges at the time, do you remember like what was one of the first kind of like aha moments for you where you're like, oh, whoa, what is this?
I think the whole like that I was doing illness was a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you know, because at first I was like, no, this is real. Like I am
Yeah.
really struggling with this, and I had autoimmune. I had allergies that were just off the charts.
Yeah.
And I had blood tests to show how severe it was.
Right.
And so I'm like, no, this is real.
Yeah.
So, but then it was like, that was kind of a jolt for me. Like, this could change.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of the beginning of that journey. Because
Yeah.
at first it was like a little defensiveness, like, wait, no, this is real,
Yeah.
but I'm open to this process. And I think that I was open because, you know, life's a journey, and I think I think I was ready for it at that time.
Yeah.
I was going through, just parenting's hard, and marriage is hard, and
Yeah.
2004 I lost my father, and I didn't even know how to deal with that grief. I didn't know how to. My son was throwing up. He'd have stomach aches. Like when he has grief, he feels it in his stomach. That's
Yeah.
my Ethan. And so I was like, oh, what is this? You know, and I
Yeah.
brought him to the doctor. So I'm like, he's throwing up. He's sick. And they're
Yeah.
like, they checked him, and he's like, he's fine. He's grieving. I'm like, grieving? And
Yeah.
so I think that's when I had was introduced to grief recovery. So I was working on lots of relationships, probably about 8 relationships at that point. And it brought me some healing, but
Yeah.
I was still sick and I was going through so much. So when Mind Change came, I think I was just in a place where I was ready for more.
Yeah. How was Mind Change different?
Okay, so a big difference is, I think with grief recovery, which is great, it brought me on that path of like dealing with that inner child and going, okay, what was my first memory of whatever?
Yeah.
But you only touch on it somewhat.
Yeah.
And I think with Mind Change, the big difference is like, I think there's a stopping point with grief recovery where with Mind Change, it's like, I don't know, I think like it's so vast. Like it's not just about healing, but it's like having that full life. And so it goes on further. So with grief recovery, there's a part where what do you wish that was different? And so you're kind of working on it a little bit and you say a few sentences, but then that's about it. So it kind of cuts you kind of short. Whereas with Mind Change, it really opened the door. Like for me, it's like it's touched every area of my life. I mean,
yeah. How has it affected your health? What has changed in going through that process?
So I think that I didn't realize, so my mother, she was probably doing the whole sickness thing too, probably 150 pills a day.
Yeah.
And just did sickness.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, oh, I don't want that. So I was really leaning towards like health and natural and yoga and eating gluten free and doing that thing. But I didn't. But when I was still continually sick, and I was doing the diet perfectly and there was no change, I was like, okay, there's more to this. Because I'm doing whatever the doctor's telling me to do perfectly and I'm still not well.
Yeah.
And so I was in pain, I was fatigued, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, it took so much to get to do basic things like go to church or get up, get ready, like, and then I would make an appointment that I just want to go home and crash and nap and muster up enough energy for the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that as I started working through like the trauma and my negative past, all those things my body was holding on to, I didn't realize I was just getting so much energy. And I didn't realize how much energy it takes to be sick.
Right? I deeply relate to that experience.
So I think that's a big change where my energy changed and I was just, again, the autoimmune, the eczema, I mean, that improved, but it was layers. Like I felt like with Mind Change, there was areas where it was just quick changes.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the things that was like one of those first quick changes? I found that like, for me, some of those first quick changes made me go like, oh, okay. It was the encouragement to like keep going and keep working on stuff. Yeah. I think that, well, one of the first things that I changed was like how I felt about school. And then suddenly it was a lot easier for me to start learning things. And and I had health stuff too. It's like, oh, before I'd felt all this like animosity towards my legs because I'd had a hard time walking at one point. And then like I ended up working on how I represented something in my mind. And I like woke up the next day with this like love for my legs. I did a cartwheel. It was like crazy. But do you remember any of those like, even sometimes it's those like really little moments of even just like, oh, I paused, and where I would have gotten really angry, now I had a little bit more consideration. Yeah,
there was a lot of quick changes that I saw in the beginning. And then doing the manifesto work, don't you agree that really did a number? Yeah,
what is it like doing the manifesto? Because I feel like what you're talking about, right? Like sometimes there's the grief, right? Like we're working through things, but a really big part of the principles of Mind Change isn't we're not just like making it so the past doesn't bother us. Like we're making it so that we hold really good things. Like we're filling that with all of the gratitude, with that sense of safety that we have. We're practicing that just as much and even more. Yeah. So what were
some immediate changes? I mean, my relationships. I feel like my friendships, there was just a shift where, because then I just felt more secure in my friendships. Even in my marriage, I did a lot of anxiety. I did a lot of worrying. And I just thought that, you know, Asian moms, I just thought that was part of it. Like, you just worry, that's the way you care. You know what I mean? So I just didn't realize they did a lot of worry. And so when I stopped worrying and
what did that
having
open
this
up?
analysis of paralysis, I felt like my husband was like, who are you? Like, he was just so grateful. He's like, I don't know what this is, but I like it, you know? So I think there was a shift in my marriage. There was a shift in just, even my kids, like, I don't know.
Yeah, with your son and all the great, like you were talking about before with him, like throwing up and stuff like that. Yeah. Did you notice anything as you were working on yourself and working through things, that things shifted with him at all?
Well, I think that, you know, as I worked on myself, like my kids have been on that journey now too. So my sons, Ethan and Joshua, have been doing mind change sessions with Kent. Yeah. And initially my son was like, just not in a good place with his health, like with his stomach and in pain and not eating, not sleeping. And as he was working through all the internal stuff, like that went away quickly.
Really?
Yes,
that's
quickly.
So cool.
So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's really touched every area of our lives. So
yeah, Uyen? Yeah. Have you, as you were doing the mind change work, was there anything from your like past that ended up like how you understood it or how you held it that changed?
Yeah. So we're talking about manifesto.
Right. Right.
So then I remember, you know, one question that, you know, if you can imagine your childhood, what would it like? And I just whenever I thought about childhood, it's just so much pain that it brought to me. Yeah. Just give you a little bit of background. I'm a middle child of 5 kids, and my dad, you know, flees from the country with my 2 sisters and my brother, and then I was left behind. I wasn't even being chosen, and so I carried that with me, that I was not loved, not worthy of love. I'm a middle child, and all of the my core belief is that I'm not good enough for anything. Yeah. Even my dad wouldn't even choose me. I was out of question to go with him. So that, you know, like how your behavior overflow of your beliefs, right? So I carry that with me with a victim mentality. Yeah. So then, so I remember when my aha moment when I read the book, when I read Heather's story, she talked about her past. Really, all of her struggle stem from her past. I'm like, that's it, I found my problem. You know, I remember I called Marinelle, I said, Marinelle, I know what my problem were, my past. Yeah. So then it just opened up, and then when I was writing the manifesto, and I'm like, I couldn't write anything, Marinelle called me and guided me through that. I said, I couldn't write anything. Yeah. Because I didn't want to bring up that pain in me, that to be left behind and know that I wasn't even being considered, you know. So then I remember one time that my aunt, really, a friend asked my dad that, how come you didn't bring Uyen with you when you escaped Vietnam? Yeah. And then, you know, he said that, well, because she cried too much. So I was afraid that when they escaped, they have to escape at night. Right. And for the small boat can hold 100 people. Yeah. So he said that if I brought her, and she might miss his mom, and she might cry, and we're gonna be captured by the Coast Guard, and they throw everybody in jail, and here me with 3 young kids. Yeah. So I refused to believe that. I thought, oh, you just make an excuse, you know? So through manifesto, I wrote it differently. I wrote that this is very much a destiny for me, that actually, you know, I cannot believe that at that moment. I'm like, oh, wait, I take one for the team here. You know, awesome. I took one for the team. Yeah. And it just empowered me to see that whatever I went through, there's a purpose for it. Yeah. And that's how they got here safely. 15 years later, they was able to sponsor me to come here. Yeah. And that just healed my relationship with my dad completely. Wow. my dad passed away. I didn't
Right.
get the chance to share with him that. I didn't get the chance to tell him, you know, that I forgive him, I love him. But through that experience, knowing that there's a purpose of my suffering, and I was able to talk to him that I forgive him.
Yeah.
And he, the way he treated me, it's just he had done the best he could.
Yeah.
That it just like opened up all relationship, not just my relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even with my relationship, you know, like how the writing. Actually, I'm a big fan of manifesto now.
Yes.
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 So even when I every time so my husband had Lyme disease,
Right.
and he couldn't function.
Yeah.
There are days that he just couldn't function at all.
Yeah.
So in the past, I would go to depression, so bad
Yeah.
that. So now I just every time I get into that mode, I would write manifesto. So it's really changed everything. It changed the whole picture of how I see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that it's manifesto is what I write for everything, even little thing.
Right.
So
have you found that there are some of those things that you wrote in your manifesto that end up like happening, you end up seeing in your life?
yeah, so I wrote for my relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
You know, because dealing with chronic illness is not something. Because I mean, I didn't get married until I was 35.
Yeah.
And he's sick. I'm like, what is this? I mean, I love him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is this? You know,
Yeah.
because you know, when growing up, you have the idea of how your marriage would be. You would get married and have 2.5 kids, you know, and that didn't happen to us, you know.
Right.
So then I wrote manifesto that he would be happy. He, you know, he not gonna, you know, during his struggle, he not gonna lay in bed for 10 days, and he happier. And that happened. I see in him that he struggled, but now that it just lasts only a few days instead of 10 days or 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So, and then I wrote manifesto for relationship with my siblings.
Yeah.
We, you know, because we lived 15 years apart,
Right.
we didn't really know each other very well. And even just recently, that my relationship with my brother, you know, they stayed with us for 2 months, and he just like, you know, pick it up from my dad being critical. And then I learned that I need to hold him in his wholeness.
Yeah.
So it's miraculously, I look at him through that lens,
Yeah.
that I don't give myself room to be hurt, to be critical of him.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing.
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, I love that. We were talking, I was talking with a couple other women from the book clubs, and they were talking about that idea of like doing manifestos as a tool of like how they view different people in their family, and how they realized that it let them work through some of their own stuff, right? The way that they were holding someone else, and there being a little bit of a discrepancy of like, wait, there are so much great stuff that I think, but what I'm saying might be different. And in taking the time to do this, I'm finding a greater sense of congruency within myself.
Yeah.
And then because I'm holding someone in that way, I'm thinking about how I really want to see them and how I want to feel about them and how I want others to see them. I end up treating them that way. And then they respond as if that's who they are. And that so much opens up that way.
Yeah. I think it's just love that when you look at them, you see they can only give what they hold within.
Yeah.
And give you a sense of peace that you cannot ask them give more when they don't have.
Right.
You know? So, and then you're able to give them mercy.
Yeah.
You're able to give them love.
Yeah.
The love that they deserve, that you think you could give them. That I think that working through your soul, you clean up a lot of junk, you know?
Totally.
So that you have room for other people.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's how I see, and that's how I love to practice, you know, my change manifesto, and you know, my change and metanoia, and I love to work with Marinelle, my, mentor, and we meet every week.
You
to
guys
work on
do?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
it's
meet.
kind of like our time where we just get on Zoom and I work on me and she works on herself. And
Yeah.
I love
it's that co-regulation thing that happens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's just, and it feels so good. We look forward to it. Yeah. Like, so we're meeting, right?
Yeah.
We don't miss that. And even the day that we don't, like, do you have anything to work on? No, not yet. I still have to work through on that. I have some idea, but I need time.
Yeah.
So we start reading manifesto to
Yeah,
one
well, let's
another
just read our
again.
manifestos to
And then
each
we
other.
add a little bit more, we add a little bit more.
I love it though, because I think sometimes what happens is people can get a little bit stuck in this idea of like, I have to work through things. Instead, it's like, well, let me see how good things can get. It doesn't even have to be that things are bad, right? To like have to heal. It's like, how wonderful can it be? How far can I take this? What are those little, nuances and places that it can get even better?
Yeah, I think the thing about my change is you cannot force it.
No.
You have to be ready.
Yeah.
But for me, when I moved to Austin, I hit my rock bottom. I hit my rock bottom with all relationship around me, including my marriage.
Yeah.
So then I'm ready.
Yeah.
But maybe you asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But so that's why with my change, even for me, I know that I need to work on something, but I'm not going to force myself to it. That's why it's very hopeful that we read manifesto, and through manifesto, somehow that lead you to, I know what I need to work on now.
Yes. Yeah, that's totally it. It's like as we build that that capacity for the goodness, it's like we're creating the safety to be able to open up more. It's like, okay, now that I know that this is how good it is, this is how safe I am, I can, those deeper places feel like they can come forward. And I love that though, the I'm not gonna force anything, I'm gonna, because isn't that like what real love is? I'm gonna meet myself where I am. And I feel like that's been one of the big takeaways for me in getting to work with Mind Change.
I think also because the book club is perfect.
Yeah.
Because, when I joined the book club, I knew only, Angela and Marinelle.
Yeah.
But through book club, I feel like we create a safe place for everybody to share freely.
Yeah.
And I remember I shared and people cry with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you feel that love, even though I haven't met them.
Yeah.
I think that Mind Change is a very powerful tool, and it would be more beneficial if we work as a community.
Yeah.
Because we can help each other. That's one that I'm just stuck. And Marinelle helped me. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And you know what is more challenging for me with Mind Change when I first started is, what do you want? And I'm like, what do I want? I know what I don't want. But I don't know what I want. You know what I mean? So,
But now,
I can tell you.
I love the pairing though of how you guys meet up together and you're supporting each other in your self work. Like what a difference that is of like I have to do something for you or like help you. It's like there's really this sense of like you guys have, this is your thing for each of you, but you get to share in it in one another and encourage each other along the way. And the kind of like the further that's built your friendship and the kind of community that you get to have in that. That's so cool. So beautiful. One last question is, I was talking about this with some of the other women. What do you feel like the difference would have been if you had just read the book versus it's really the putting it into practice?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's something that has to be applied. I don't think you could just read it. It doesn't really, it's not effective if you're not like applying.
Right.
And that's why the book club or partnering was so key, because we knew we were going to talk about it and answer those questions, and that's why I just kept doing more book clubs, because it was a way to go, okay, I've got to keep practicing those areas.
Yeah.
So it makes a huge difference because I think we're built to have each other.
Yeah.
So I think
absolutely.
when we're doing it together, it makes. I think what happens is I think you could read it and be impacted, but it's exponential when you're doing it with each other, because there's only you'll read something and you'll take from, okay, this week I got this, but then others will share and you're like, that's really good too. I'm gonna take that and that and that, and so then your growth keeps going. Because we're all helping each other, and so it just gives you a kind of that perspective, that aspect that maybe you didn't see that week, but then you get to see how they saw it that week, and so this shared experience just allows you to kind of grow further and faster. And that's why I do love about Mind Change is I appreciate what Kent and Heather did, because I really think they packaged it in a way where it's like, okay, I could do this, you know? And it was, so anyways, I just feel like it was accessible and I could apply it, and oh, this is what I wanted to say. I kind of lost my train of thought, but them finding the therapies that work the fastest. Like, this is the fastest way to heal. This, if you deal with the inner child, if you deal with the core memories, if you deal with core beliefs, the limiting core beliefs, if you deal with those things, you're going to heal multiple negative memories. You're going to heal multiple wounded relationships. So that's why I saw such immediate growth in a lot of areas in the beginning, because you're already dealing with those core beliefs early on. And that's where I saw the changes in my relationships and in my health and my energy, and even just my ability to dream again. And I think really just being who we're created to be, that, and you look at children, you're like, wow, they're awesome, right? They're happy, they're joyful, they're trusting, they dream, they're creative, they're imaginative. I lost all that. And now I'm like imagining and dreaming, and really that is, I'm connecting with really my initial, what I was created to be. And that's why it's so fun. Like, it's not burdensome work. It's like really fun work.
It is.
It's like I'm healing the negative stuff, but now it's like even the stuff that was okay in my life or good, well, how can we make it great? Let's make it great. So, and I think this is the thing is, like, I'm into health too. I wanted, always pursued it in some way, even just with my kids, just wanted to give them my best, and natural birth and nursing, and I chose to homeschool. Like, I just wanted to do, like, what could I give them the best in, and just modeling the best I can in every area, But I feel like Mind Change has been that other gift that I give to my kids, because really, even in our module group, Facebook group, someone said, when you this is a gift that you give to others. When you heal yourself, it's a gift that you give to others. So I've seen myself heal, and the people around me I love heal. And that's such a beautiful thing, because I think even with my kids, it's like I want them to have everything they need, all the tools. And it's interesting, even as a parent, you could parent your very best. You do the best you could, right? But you could have two kids have a different reaction to your parenting. I had one thought that I was oppressive, in my parenting, and then another who thought I was a great parent, So we do our best, but somehow along the way we experience some negative stuff. And it's like, I don't want them to, and that's just where they're at. And I just want healing for them too. So they've been able to work through their stuff so that they could really live a full life. So it's amazing. It's so amazing.
I think for me it would be hard to see, how my change work without practicing it. And practicing it make it perfect, what I mean? I think for me is, I remember, I was in art that to find out that I create my emotion. Right, because before I blame my husband for everything. I'm happy, I'm mad, I'm angry, it's on him, But now that when given me the situation that I could, in the past, I could be upset, I would stop and say, hey, I create emotion, I'm in charge here, so let's create something more positive. Why go there? And as a result, I remember my husband like, you happier, you calmer, and I think that's a big thing for me. It just I love you know, my change.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I empower me to take charge, and also just I remember, you know, just working through, even with, you know, being molested.
Yeah.
Was molested, my cousin.
Yeah.
It was the first time I shared, believe it or not. Like, it happened 40 years ago.
Yeah.
First time I shared in the group that I, you know, I planned myself for it. You know, if I didn't do this, then it's not gonna happen. But through my change, I know people sinned, and that's not my responsibility.
Right.
You know, so that I don't know. It's, you cannot enjoy the journey if you don't practice it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many self book out there.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
even spend money
Yeah.
to go seminar.
Yeah.
But at the end, you just still the same. You're just stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at least I've been telling Angela and Marinelle, I said, at least I give myself a gift.
Yeah.
Working through my change is not fun sometimes, you know, because you have to visit your the past
Right.
and hurt and all of that. But that's the gift I give to myself.
Yeah.
At least I give to myself.
Mm.
You know, I said,
Yeah.
I it's not about the money. It's not about it's just like you're free.
Yeah.
The first time I feel I'm so free.
Yeah.
I'm so free from hurt. I'm so free from sin. I'm so free from like almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for
welcome.
taking the time to get to share with me. It's been a lot to get to hear about your experiences and your journeys, and really inspiring. So thank you so much.
You're
Welcome.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.